Welcome to the Report, where we watch and talk about every episode of the Colbert Report from 2005 to 2014. That's a lot of episodes. I'm Nathaniel,
And I'm Alex.
and Colbert's guest today is Greg Behrendt
Okay, we talked about Bernanke's appointment as chair of the Federal Reserve,
in
sort of
2006.
2006, 2014. It bears debut on Threat Down, so that's a big deal.
That's a big deal for this episode. It's a
Of
real
course.
big deal.
And also, I thought it was a joke, but Shalom is Bernanke's actual middle name.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Oh, I thought that was just a
I
joke.
guess they just wanted to tell people they were Jewish or something. And also, the thing is that he lived in Dillon, South Carolina, so he did indeed work at south of the border at one time.
Does everybody deal in South
I
Carolina?
don't know,
Is there
maybe.
only one south of the border?
Yeah,
And what border is it south of?
the North Carolina, South Carolina border.
That's not even a big border.
I
That's a
know,
made
but
up one. It's not one of
I
the
mean,
real.
aren't all borders made up?
But that's not one of the ones that really counts, you know?
I don't know, but I mean that's the
I
joke.
thought it was supposed to be like south like Mexico or something.
I mean, yeah, it's themed that way. It's Mexican themed, but
But okay, that's dumb.
I mean that's kind of the point.
Yeah. Bernanke's middle name is really Shalom.
Yeah,
That's like the most Jewish middle name.
I don't know. I mean, it would probably be. I mean, there's probably not the most common Jewish.
Yeah, well, can you think of a more Jewish
I
middle
don't know.
name?
I said his thing was my money makes its own money. He said is that's how good.
That's what Colbert says. Isn't
Yeah,
that a real expression?
I don't know.
I think money making its own money is a real expression.
And he says the thing that people all really want to watch on TV is hear about the inner workings. Looking it up, I
Yeah.
didn't see that, so I don't think it is a real saying. And he says that like they would like beat out Laguna Beach. I guess that was
What's Laguna
solely.
Beach?
It was like a reality show about people in Laguna Beach, California.
Mm.
I saw a video pointing out that a lot of the early reality shows were just like the real versions of TV shows. Like you got Desperate Housewives, so you had the Real Housewives,
Oh,
and then you had the OC, so you had Laguna Beach was like the real version of
the
that.
real OC. Okay.
And
He talks about Bernanke being pro
and it
anti-deflation.
does seem to be like what the Bernanke doctrine ought to be in college. So I guess
Pro
it seems like his joke
anti-deflation?
was that like it wasn't that different from Greenspan. So
Yeah.
I mean, I assume it was different in some ways, given that
I mean, Greenspan was anti-inflation, right?
I guess, huh?
Yeah, that's the big
And it also
difference.
says it says it was he talks about his purposeful stride in a picture of Bernanke and Greenspan in the White
It's a funny
House.
image. To me,
Yeah,
it reminds me of like the Chad versus Virgin memes,
I
kind of.
guess.
I mean, it just looks like that's what it'd be called compared to
And
today.
then he photoshopped like chimpanzee into it and said he was an evolutionary leap forward
It
from
also did
Greenspan.
look like a evolutionarily forward
Yeah,
thing because he was
so
like
sort of
slouched
pronounced his name
over
Bernanke. And so the
Bernanke.
word is about Rosa Parks' death, which had occurred just the day before. So I guess that shows they must write these in just a day.
Yeah.
It does make sense because they're shorter.
And what day is this?
I think October 25th. I think once they stop,
2005.
yeah, I think once they stop becoming daily, it gets shorter.
Mm.
I mean, it gets longer. I mean,
Okay.
it talks about something about being the Rosa Parks of something, which
And mind saying what the word is?
the word is overrated
Yeah.
because he's calling Rosa Parks
Yep.
overrated. And he says it talks about calling something the Rosa Parks or something, which seems weird. I don't think I've ever heard that. I mean, the Jackie Robinson is something I'd heard, but not the Rosa Parks. I mean, she wasn't even the first to do that, so it doesn't even
Yeah.
really make sense.
I mean, I would call Jackie Robinson the Rosa Parks of being black in baseball. I think.
And I think that might be part of the joke. I'm not sure. Is like the joke
Yeah.
that he just can't tell the difference. And she talks about Michelle Lee, who I guess had won a women's golf tournament at 16.
How is Michelle Lee doing now?
I know. I said apparently she was married. She's married to Jerry West's son now. So
Oh, Jerry
something,
West has a son?
I guess.
I would have thought he'd be too nervous.
Eh.
Logo
And
man and all that.
and and so I guess like this expounds upon Colbert having a DUI arrest. Maybe that was based on the fact that Bush had one. I don't know.
Yeah.
And it
Well,
seems
didn't he
like
technically say he had a DWI?
yeah, DWI. Yeah, I guess it seems like the only difference is that DWI would only apply to alcohol, but I'm not sure.
So DUI could be drugs,
Yeah, because it's driving under the influence. So.
not while influenced.
No, it's driving while
Well,
intoxicated is what
intoxicated.
DWI
Okay,
usually
so then
stands
it has
for.
to be.
Yeah.
All right.
And
So,
Colbert says like he decries anarchy because then that's what Rosa Parks stood for. And he
mm,
says something about Gandhi drinking his urine, which it seems like there was a report that he did that, and I know some Hindus do that, I think, for medicinal purposes, but it does not seem like Gandhi did, so.
mm.
And it says that like Rosa Parks should have explored other options, like renting a car, starting her own bus company.
Mm.
It introduces Alan the Black Friend, who I think pretty sure comes back. I mean, Wikipedia seems
Isn't it
to.
just Chris Rock? The picture.
I can't tell. I
I
forget.
I'm pretty sure the picture is Chris Rock, but
Maybe.
don't quote me.
if not, then you're it's kind of racist for you to think that all.
Uh, It's a comedian.
I mean,
It's
yeah,
a
it would make
comedian
sense he would have
picture.
a picture with Chris Rock, but still.
Yeah.
And then he says like he was just as mad about this as I am because he delved into a rant filled with profanities once he told him that.
That Rosa Parks is overrated.
Yeah, and he says, "Aren't we all in the back of America's bus?"
Mm-hmm.
It was interesting because I mean he wasn't even commenting on real punditry. He just tried to guess what like his character would say about that. What would be the most
Yeah.
outrageous thing his character could say.
And the character's really funny. Like, I just want to talk about the fact that the jokes in this episode are really,
Yeah.
really, really funny.
And so now we go on to the threat down. He says, "So does the world just seems right?" And he's going to tell you why it's not.
Mm-hmm.
And so the fifth one is about Walmart opening walk-in medical clinics. Seems like they might still have that.
Yeah. And the joke is it's like healthcare, right?
Sort of, I don't know. I think that he just found a story and they had to make it in, honestly. Of course, he
Mm.
pointed out how like the logo is still the old logo. It seems like that one changed in 2008.
Okay.
And the South Park episode with Walmart was in 2004, so this is after that at
This is
least.
after that
Then he
episode.
said this will lead to like Walmart becoming a sovereign nation. And it seems like you have like kind of the standard jokes you have to make about Walmart, which is like the greeters they employ at the door and that they sell guns. So
Yeah. What was the last state to get Walmart?
I'm not sure. That's kind of and
Are there any counties without a Walmart?
so I mean New York City doesn't have any Walmarts,
New
last
York.
I heard, but
Okay. But how far do you have to drive out?
probably not that far.
Are you ever 50 miles away from a Walmart?
I mean, I assume like in like the wilderness you are, but
I mean, the South Park would suggest they're like self-populating entities that will
I
find you,
mean,
so
probably. I mean, it's probably something close to that.
yeah.
And the Bears. And so this is the first, but despite that, he still says once again, "I'm talking about Bears." So I guess the idea is that they knew it was probably going to be a running gag, and they kind of set it up as the idea is Colbert had been going for longer. And
Yeah.
I know like later on they will have segments where Colbert is a local news reporter, but
Earlier, so I guess the implication is on his old news
I don't know.
station, the character had a fear of bears in the threat down list.
Maybe I don't know.
But this is the first bear threat down
Yeah,
of the show.
I
This
think
is a big, big deal
yeah, I think he
because it'll
uses
come
the
back.
same video of bears sometimes.
Why not? They're bears.
I mean, he uses the same video of bears usually. I mean,
Mm,
I feel like that could be a thing to like maybe note down when is the first time he uses a stock photo, but I mean, I feel like it'll be hard to remember that at the time because.
yeah.
But I mean, like if he likes a stock photo, he will reuse it all the time.
I mean, also he used non-stock photos, like the one of Rick Scott, right?
Yeah,
That comes up later, but
yeah. I don't think Rick Scott had even been elected to anything at
no,
this
but it's
time,
a
but
funny photo, right?
yeah. And so what happens this time is that like in China, there's somebody that was harvesting bile from bears, which is a thing they do, and
For
like the bears killed him.
medicinal purposes. What kind of bear would it be? Do we find out?
I'm going to look up bile bear.
Wild bears. So, what kind of bears do they have in China? Black bears,
I think. Oh, it
that's
seems like they're usually Asian black bears.
Asian
Although it
black
seems
bears.
like they could use any other kind of bear if they could get their hands on it.
Okay. And what's the belief, like the believed purpose of bile from bears?
Um,
Sometimes also called battery bears.
huh. Yeah, I guess. It doesn't seem. I can't seem to find.
Believe so. Just probably just it's supposedly just good for you.
I'm not sure.
Supposedly.
Yeah. Oh, it seems like I guess. But yeah, it seems like for a whole bunch of things. Like
Okay.
it's
Is
pretty
bear
long.
bile legal in the United States?
Um, I don't. I'm not sure.
That's interesting. How do these folk medicine traditions get started? Is it
I think I heard for like in China, like part of it was they wanted to establish a modern medicine system, but I guess I think like Mao was maybe like afraid that he would get people mad, so he's tried to like formalize traditional Chinese medicine, even though I don't think there really was a formal tradition before
hmm.
that.
So is this stuff sourced like have its roots in Taoism?
Maybe I wouldn't be surprised if like
Okay. See, I wouldn't be surprised if folk medicine, like using certain parts of animals, comes from the fact those parts are not edible.
maybe.
So
I
it's
think
like,
a lot of it too is that like I mean like oftentimes like those parts might be like good for you and like those parts in the human,
okay.
like something like that.
So it's that idea.
And so Colbert says that those bears were cowards for doing that. The
Hmm.
bears are on notice. And
The
then
Bears are cowards for attacking when like
yeah,
it's somebody's helping them.
yeah, yeah. I mean, the on notice thing, of course, comes back. Still no on notice board, I don't think, but
Are bears always at the top?
I don't think so. But
Oh,
the third one was about like I guess in Maryland hunting season, an 8-year-old killed the first bear of the season. It was second buck bear season. She said it'll be good for when she gets shipped off to Iraq 10 years from now. I did find out what I did kind of look it up, but I couldn't find anything else, and I don't think it would be in our best interest to report on it anyway. So
yeah. So the
this,
I mean 8-year-olds kill bears, I guess.
I guess. Second one was that David Copperfield said he had a magic trick where he would impregnate somebody.
How did that go?
I could say, I mean, so the one thing is that I did find two reports from 2014 and 2022, but I wouldn't be surprised if they were just recycling the older ones to be
Mm.
lazy. And it seems like on one forum I saw that apparently the thing is that like the idea is that later on he'll pull up a sonogram and the baby will have your card or something.
Wow.
So I don't
That's
think it's supposed to be serious, but I guess it
yeah.
is. And so he says that he should keep his wand in his pants.
Hmm.
And like he says, like he'll make the Gentile in him disappear by reverting him back to his old name.
What's his old name
I
again?
actually that
David Koffner or something.
no, it,
Dude,
his name
lose me.
is David
Dude,
Seth
Seth Kotkin.
Kotkin.
Okay.
Yeah. And number one is antibacterial soap for being no more effective than traditional soap, which I think is still what most studies say is that it's not that much more effective.
It's not that much more antibacterial.
Yeah, and so he keeps a bottle of Purell and forces his staff to wash his hands. Then it has a like spine on the bathroom, and
Yeah.
I mean, I guess like if the pandemic came around, that probably would have been helpful. But
Yeah, probably not.
yeah,
They probably weren't working there during the pandemic, so
yeah, and so we get our first interview guest, who has nothing to do with the news media,
big
is
deal.
Greg. I guess kind of yeah. Is Greg Behrendt for who wrote "He's Just Not That Into You." He
And
is a
breakup means it's broken.
yeah. He is a comedian who I guess
Wrote for Sex
consulted
in the
for. I'm
City.
not sure if he's consulted
Just
maybe, but
consulted.
can't
Okay.
tell. Yeah, he said he has very 2000s hair with his frosted tips. Which yeah,
It
kind
is.
of
It's super
yeah.
2000s.
Yeah, and he said like, is he making blood money by betraying male secrets to women? He says
Colbert says that,
Colbert says that, and he wants a smoke screen. And he asks him about like, does he give like advice to his daughters? And he says he'll just have them read the books.
which is a funny joke. See, I think the interview is a
But
little
it
bit
was
ruined because Greg Behrendt also a funny guy,
yeah,
so it's less funny that Colbert's messing with him because he knows how to tell his own jokes.
yeah, and also without like kind of a political angle, it's kind of hard for. But I mean, he
Colbert,
does try like he does call him like an East Coast liberal college elite or West Coast.
he doesn't really care.
Yeah,
That's the trick.
and going to look up what
It's also it is funny though because they're
uh,
actually both funny, which is good.
designing women is a sitcom, I guess. So that's
So
okay.
did Greg Behrendt write for Designing
I
Women?
don't think so. Oh, I guess he's comparing Sex and the City to
Okay,
because I guess they're kind of like it's kind of supposed to be a dumb comparison. I think.
yeah.
Oh, I guess he did have like two brief TV shows after this.
Greg Behrendt Wake
I
Up
guess this is what
Call.
he looks at later,
He
slightly
still has the
with.
frosted tips.
I don't know. Honestly, looks kind of metrosexual. I would feel even, which I guess
Yeah.
makes even. And I said the thing is like I guess he did briefly have to go through cancer treatment, but it seems
Ah,
like he's fine now. So
what did that do with frosted tips?
I don't know. Maybe they did actually come out, and that probably would have done it.
Yeah,
And
if taste didn't.
I was just saying that like the Heisenberg uncertainty principle of it is that average guys don't talk about relationships, so he can't be an average guy.
Mhm. So it's nothing to do with the actual Heisenberg uncertainty
Yeah,
principle.
and so they ask him um, which girl in Sex in the City he is,
I
and
think they
so he
give
says
like three
he's
different answers.
Charlotte in the day, Samantha in the evening. Colbert says he's Miranda because she's the classy brunette, but then he says that Miranda has red hair, so she must be thinking of Charlotte.
Hmm.
And he says good since he married Kyle MacLachlan, and it says he was in the short movie. I think he's talking about Showgirls, but I don't know.
It's a weird joke.
Yeah,
Greg Behrendt also doesn't get it, but it's funny because the character sells it.
I guess yeah. And says like best way to break up with a woman is says you should just tell her, but Colbert of course isn't going with that.
Yeah, because his thing is just oppose everything Greg Behrendt
Yeah,
says.
marry her, buy herself some time, become a spy.
Yep,
And he asked about how many, and I was wondering how many jokes you were wondering how many jokes he had planned for.
for this, yeah.
Yeah, and you were wondering like why. Colbert was, I guess, wondering why he didn't write books for guys. That he says that he says like he actually thought about it, but he didn't think that they would read them, which does feel unfortunate. Like I feel like I don't think there would be anything wrong with that having books like that, but
Yeah. They exist probably.
yeah, honestly, some of them might be kind of similar. And so, and then I guess there was stuff they had a restraining order, but they didn't bring up
Hmm.
Charlene again. So
But Colbert, does he have a restraining order against Charlene?
I think so, but I don't. But it doesn't come up this
It
time.
doesn't come up this time, but it's briefly mentioned because the restraining order is mentioned, not
Yeah,
Charlene.
and then we get the heroes thing again,
Yes.
and so then we get he starts fielding that was because he starts fielding phone calls with Greg Behrendt about relationships, and it seems like Wikipedia also agrees that they're fake. I mean, they pretty obviously are by the end. So
Yeah.
they had Kathleen Frosted first wishes about like I wish my boyfriend would call them more, and so Colbert just goes right in and says he's not that NDO.
Hmm.
Cheryl from St. Paul says my boyfriend says he's not my boyfriend, and then like Greg does have to say. I mean, he seems pretty clear, but Colbert says, "Well, maybe not."
You see, I think the interesting thing is, I remember with this one, Colbert deflects to Greg Behrendt because I think he doesn't have a joke planned. So
Yeah,
he's waiting just to say the opposite of whatever Greg Behrendt says,
maybe.
which is the main source of comedy for this segment.
But
But
it's interesting. I mean, imagine like curious. I mean, obviously, I doubt that he knows what the calls are. I don't think Greg knows what the calls are going to be, but I would
I wouldn't be
Steven.
surprised if Colbert doesn't know either.
Yeah,
But he just waits for Greg to say something.
yeah. And Anna L says a thing where like, my boyfriend says he's gay, but he gives a but he gives me back rub, so I don't think that
It's,
he's gay.
yeah.
And then um,
Colbert says stick with it.
to stick with it because if you're woman enough, you can make him not gay, which I guess is like his first attempt to get some kind of political thing in there. So
Yeah. And then Greg Behrendt says split up, obviously, because
yeah,
he's the voice of reason in this scenario.
and then there's Aaron B, who's the caller who just wants to hear Colbert and doesn't care about Greg. So
Yeah. And Colbert's
yeah,
obviously very, very happy to see that.
yeah. And then at the end, they have a weird segment where they say they have their morning show yet another day, which is supposed to be really boring. And Christine and Spencer and they're both active. Christina Gauss and Brett Gelman. Christina Gauss doesn't seem to have been that much more, even though she's still sort of active, I guess. Brett Gelman, though, seems like is still active. He had like a fairly big role in Stranger Things, I guess. And he
Mm.
plays Magic Mike the Mushroom on Inside Job, so you'll be
Okay.
familiar with him from
That's what
that.
I am familiar with from.
Yeah.
Is Yet Another Day a real Comedy Central show?
I'm pretty sure it's not because I think they
They
would
just
have
made it up
worked
for
it.
Colbert?
And so the idea is like they're just like doing really boring things and saying like I have a journalism degree I need to forget.
Need to forget about.
Yeah,
Is this a recurring joke?
I think I mean I would. It feels like it, but I
I mean,
haven't
we'll see.
checked.
Yeah, we'll see
Yeah.
if they think it's
And then
funny.
Colbert says to have some balls at the end, which I mean, yeah, he's
As you
done
know,
that. That's his thing.
that's part of it.
And so
So,
that's the end of this
episode
episode.
of the Rapport Report signing off.